All right. So today's exciting because I'm going to go through, first off, I have printed out here the entire intro of evilbible.com's website. We're going to go through this piece by piece and see how honest and genuine they're being about what they're saying, right? I do have a physical Bible, chain reference, King James Version, New King James Version, but I do have other editions. This is, as we move along, I'm going to tell you why there are different versions and why that doesn't necessarily matter unless you can go back and verify it all for yourself. And it's very simple to do so. I can list you some resources, put some links down below. But yeah, let's hurry up and get started because I kind of want to. If I'm wrong, if something here is actually concise, guess what? I'm going to admit it. I'm going to admit when I'm wrong. I'm going to admit when evilbible.com is correct in their assertion of what they're doing. But I'm not going to be easy about it. And neither do I expect anybody to be easy about criticizing me where I'm wrong. But we're just doing this for not to necessarily bash the other person. It's to see how honest we're being. Because I'm going to explain right now, I used to be an atheist long time ago. I actually put some thought into my belief, to the things that I believed in, and I came to another conclusion. So I'm always willing to change my mind on a subject that I will fervently hold on to. Let's just keep that in mind, okay? Let's start here. First, number one. Welcome to the evilbible.com website. And by the way, if you see it, you can go to the website, evilbible.com. It's pretty simple. You can go to their website, and I'm going to read word for word what it says. I'm not going to omit anything they say. I'm not going to add anything they say. I'm going to say exactly what they say, and then I'm going to react to it. Okay? Welcome to the evilbible.com website. This website is designed to spread the vicious truth about the Bible. For far too long, priests and preachers have completely ignored the vicious criminal acts that the Bible promotes. The so-called God of the Bible makes Osama bin Laden look like a Boy Scout. This God, according to the Bible, is directly responsible for many mass murders, rapes, pillage, plunder, slavery, child abuse, and killing. Not to mention the killing of unborn children. I have included references to the Bible passages, so grab your Bible and follow along. I've got it. All right, let's go. It amazes me how many times this God orders the killing of innocent people, even after the 10 Commandments said, "Thou shalt not kill." For example, God kills 70,000 innocent people because David ordered a census of the people. 1 Chronicles 21, chapter 21. All right, we'll start there. That was a huge introduction, man. The God of the Bible promotes or is directly responsible. Yeah, this God, according to the Bible, is directly responsible for many mass murders, rapes, pillage, plunder, slavery, child abuse, and killing, not to mention the killing of unborn children. So they say directly responsible for these. Before we get to the passage and where they're getting this from, if we're talking about an omniscient creator, an omnipotent creator, if we're being hypothetical, let's be imaginative and in a fairy tale with the flying spaghetti monster, okay? Let's say the flying spaghetti monster, or in your case, the invisible pink unicorn, if he created things, he can obviously undo that creation. If things were created. So I don't care what your feelings are about it, Mr. Atheist or Mrs. Atheist. If you create something, you have the right to tear it down. If you started Apple, you get to shut Apple down if you want, if that's your prerogative. You're the creator of it, you can do it. Okay, we'll just keep it surface level right there, okay? I'm not going to say that this is true, that God did that or not, or what. But if you're saying that God is directly responsible for mass murders, rapes, killing, okay, if you're saying God directly killed people, okay, in a physical sense or a metaphysical sense, or because is God a physical person, or what? You're not clearly defined here. So we'll go to the piece in question. What was it? It was 1 Chronicles, right? 1 Chronicles. Let's see if we can find it. CHR Chronicles. All right, we're in 1 Chronicles 21. 1 Chronicles chapter 21. Now, what you can do is there is a Bible app that does exist. It's just called the Bible app. I mean, you can look it up. It'll say the Holy Bible on it. They have literally every one that's in existence. But we'll delve into this a little bit further as time goes on, with other videos breaking down words and things of that nature. But let's get to the meat of the subject, okay? So chapter 21, the census of Israel and Judah, okay? So where they say, it says that God kills 70,000 innocent people because David, the king, ordered a census of the people. Okay, here we go. Since they gave us 21 and not a specific verse, we're going to have to read the whole thing. So sorry, but in order to be intellectually honest, we've got to go through it. Okay, So, it begins. Now Satan stood up against Israel and moved David to number Israel. So first off, the thing that's being said is Satan stood up against Israel. An evil spirit. Sin took over him. And it moved him to do a census, which is what God said he did not want. So David said to Joab and to the leaders of the people, "Go number Israel from Beersheba to Dan, and bring the number of them to me that I may know it." And Joab answered, "May the Lord make his people 100 times more than they are. But, my lord the king, are they not all my lord's servants? Why then does my lord require this thing? Why should he be a cause of guilt in Israel?" Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Joab. Therefore, Joab departed and went through all Israel and came to Jerusalem. Then Joab gave the sum of the number of the people to David. All Israel had 1,100,000 men who drew the sword, and Judah had 470,000 men who drew the sword. But he did not count Levi and Benjamin among them, for the king's word was abominable to Joab. And God was displeased with this thing. Therefore, he struck Israel. So David said to God, "I have sinned greatly because I have done this thing. But now I pray, take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have done very foolishly." Then the Lord spoke to Gad, David's seer, saying, "Go tell David, saying, Thus says the Lord, I offer you 3 things. Choose one of them for yourself, that I may do it." So Gad came to David and said to him, "Thus says the Lord, choose for yourself either 3 years of famine, or 3 months of being defeated by your foes, with the sword of your enemies overtaking you, or else 3 days, or else for 3 days the sword of the Lord, the plague in the land, with the angel of the Lord destroying throughout all the territory of Israel. Now consider what answer I should take back to him who sent me." And David said to Gad, "I am in great distress. Let me fall into the hand of the Lord, for his mercies are very great. But do not let me fall into the hand of man." So the Lord sent a plague upon Israel, and 70,000 men of Israel fell. And God sent an angel to Jerusalem to destroy it. Now, let's pause. We now know where God killed 70,000 people. He sent a plague. Being a Christian, when I read this, Of course, you're going to say, I don't read this as God killed 70,000 people, first off. What I read is that David did something against the commandment of what God had asked. He broke the rules, so he's the king over these people. And because of his decision, people suffered. Now, it's fair as people to ask, is that okay? I mean, it does sound pretty evil and brutal that God would kill people just because he counted them. Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe, that's, as a person, I wouldn't do that. Because I don't see a utility for it. But if we're, as Christians, to believe in God, there's obviously a utility in it for him. Maybe there is something they're trying to tell us here. Let's go on. And God sent an angel to destroy Jerusalem. As he was destroying, the Lord looked and relented of the disaster, and said to the angel who was destroying it, "It is enough. Now restrain your hand." I'm going to paraphrase so I can kind of get ahead, because you can go and you can read this all for yourself. I'll explain later why you have to take care where you read it, because you have to be able to go back and study it actually. David pretty much says, dude, I did this, quit. He's self-wallowing and saying, man, I caused this plague. He's pleading with God. God, stop. Stop. Don't make these people suffer for something that I did. Right? So basically what happens is David ends up giving a sacrifice, creates a place to worship God, and there we go. Okay. Now, with this, did God mass murder $70,000 people because he's evil and malevolent? Well, again, that's something you have to decide. Is God a person, or do you read God as a person, or do you read God as a creator? If you're a creator, you can do with your creation as you wish. So, for this, and when it says thou shalt not kill, if you even decided to study Hebrew, that means that commandment actually doesn't say thou shalt not kill, it says thou shalt not murder. Because there's a difference between murdering and killing. Right? If a mosquito lands on my arm and I smack it, I didn't murder the mosquito, I killed the mosquito. If I kill my neighbor, okay, I murdered because, they have, to me, what's intrinsic value. And I don't kill mosquitoes because I'm malevolent. Kill mosquitoes because I could get malaria and die. So, malaria, did I could get West Nile. So, you can take from it as you wish. Because obviously that's what you have to do. But that was the context, right? David sinned and God let out a punishment. He did something wrong and God let out a punishment. If you think it's fair, whatever. Guess what? Follow the rules and nothing bad happens. Oh, not always. But we'll get to all that later. Let's move on because I'm slowing down. God also orders the destruction of 60 cities so that the Israelites can live there. He orders the killing of all the men, women, and children of each city and the looting of all of value. Deuteronomy 3. Again, a whole nother chapter we've got to try to get through. He orders another attack and the killing of all living creatures of the city, men and women, young and old, as well as oxen, sheep, and asses. Joshua 6. In Judges 21, he orders the murder of all the people of Jabesh Gilead, except for the virgin girls who were taken to be forcibly raped and married. And when they wanted more virgins, God told them to hide alongside the road. And when they saw a girl they liked, they kidnapped her and forcibly raped her and make her your wife. Looked like they were trying to quote it and make a statement at the same time. I thought I was going to be able to get through this whole page in this one. Probably not. I'll probably go through it and break it up later if y'all's retention isn't good enough on this. So we first go to Deuteronomy 3, where he said that God ordered the destruction of 60 cities so the Israelites could live there. He orders the killing of all men, women, and children of each city and the looting of all the value. Deuteronomy 3. I've already read this and I know how it ends. So you can also go through it, but I'm going to highlight the points they're making and then we'll react to it. So, Deuteronomy 3. King Og defeated. Og, Og. This is about the conquest of Og, king of Bashan. Okay. Then we turned and went up the road to Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, came out against us, and all his people to battle at Edrei. And the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have delivered him and all his people and his land into your hand. You shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who dwelt at Heshbon. And that was literally just before this. So he's saying, you're going to do to this guy what you did to that guy. So the Lord God also delivered into our hands Og, king of Bashan, and with all his people we attacked him until he had no survivors remaining. We took all his cities at that time. There was not a city we did not take from them. 60 cities. All the region of Argob, the king of Og in Bashan. These cities were fortified in the high wall gates. They were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, besides a great many rural towns. And we utterly destroyed them, as we did to Sihon, king of Heshbon, utterly destroying men, women, and children of every city. But all the livestock and the spoils of the cities we took as booty for ourselves. And at the time we took the land from the hands of the 2 kings of the Amorites who were on this side of the Jordan, from the river Arnon to Mount Hermon. The Sidonians call Hermon Sirion, and the Amorites it Sinir. All the cities of the plain, all Gilead, all of Bashan, as far as Salach and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan. For only Og, king of the Bashan, remained of the remnant of the giants. Indeed, his bedstead was an iron bedstead. Is it not in Rabbah of the people of Ammon? 9 cubits is its length, and 4 cubits its width, according to the standard cubit. So, what happened here? It sounds like, with their example that they gave, Moses walked up to Bashan, the city, and King Og said, "Hey, I don't like you. We're going to fight." And then God said to them, "They're nothing. You're going to take them out easy. You're going to utterly destroy them." Do you get? God didn't destroy 60 cities. And he didn't condone the killing of an entire population of people. It's called war. And Og was a giant. And if you've even read the Bible, you know giants came, according to the Bible, from angels who fell from heaven, who fornicated with human women. And they created the giants. And some of these were called men of renown in the day, like warrior, like Hercules or things of that nature. Unfortunately, from what I can see in this, yeah, they were traveling, they did war. Does it make it right? Make your own decision. But God didn't order the destruction of 60 cities. They came upon the city. The king wanted to fight. So they fought, and they won. And they captured the cities. We'll get into more of the details later about why a lot of the people were killed. In fact, sometimes the animals even. We'll get into the disgusting part of it, but there's a historical reason for things if they were to happen. But let's continue with this one paragraph, and we're going to stop in the middle. He brings up Joshua 6. Joshua 6. Sorry, I'm practically useless, aren't I? Joshua. Right? This is Joshua 6. All right, 277. So Joshua comes after Moses. Here we go, Joshua. Chapter 2. Rahab hides the spies. Nope, wrong. Joshua 6. The destruction of Jericho. This is the story of the walls of Jericho. Like, do we really have to talk about this? Okay, let's do it. Because here they said he orders another attack and the killing of all living creatures of the city, men and women, young and old, as well as the oxen and the asses. Here we go. Now, Jericho was securely shut up because of the children of Israel. No one went out and no one came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king, and the mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, and you, men of war, you shall go around the city once. This you shall do for 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. The 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow the trumpet. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horns, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, that all the people shall shout with a great shout, then the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every man straight before him. Then Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear trumpets of ram's horns. And then he said to the people, proceed, go around. So it was when Joshua had spoken to the people, and the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord advanced and blew the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. The armed men went before the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard, the priests continued to blow the trumpets. It's poetic. I'm sorry. Now Joshua had commanded the people, saying, you shall now shout You shall not shout or make any noise with your voice, nor shall a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I say to you, shout, and then you shall shout. So he had the ark of the Lord circle the city, go around it once, and then they came to the camp and lodged in the camp. Joshua rose early. The second day they marched around the city. And the seventh time it happened, and the priests blew the trumpets. Joshua said to the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And now the city shall be doomed by the Lord to destruction, it and all who are in it. Only Rahab and harlot shall live, she and all who are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you, by all means, abstain from the accursed things, lest you become accursed when you take of the accursed things, and make camp of Israel a curse and trouble it. But all the silver and the vessels of bronze and iron are consecrated to the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted when the priests blew, and as it happened, when the people heard the sound of the trumpets, the people shouted with a great shout, and the walls fell down. And they were utterly destroyed. They utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man, women, donkey, both man, women, young and old, ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said to the two men who spied out of the country, go into the harlot's house, and from there bring out the woman and all she has, as you swore to her. And the young men who had been spies went and brought out Rahab, her father, her mother, her brothers, and all that she had. So they brought out all their relatives and left them outside the camp of Israel. But they burned the city, and all that was in it was fire. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. And Joshua spared Rahab the harlot, her father's household, and all that she had. So she dwells in Israel to this day, because she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent out to spy on Jericho. Then Joshua charged them at the time, saying, cursed be the man before the Lord who rises and builds this city Jericho. He shall lay its foundations with his firstborn, and his youngest shall set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the country. God. And let's just hurry and do Judges 21 so I can get all this out of the way. In 21 orders the murder of all the people of Jabesh Gilead, except for the virgin girls who are to be taken and forcibly raped and married. You want me to just summarize this? I'm going to simple it up in this simple word at the end of Judges. Because chapter 21 is the last chapter of Judges. They say that that God orders the murder of all the people and the taking of all the virgins. What you hear and what you see in here is people doing what they want. At the end of the chapter, very end of it, chapter 22, verse 20 through 25. This is the whole thing. Then it shall be, when their fathers or their brothers come to us to complain, what will we say to them? Be kind to them for our sakes, because we did not take a wife for any of them in the war. For it is not as though you have given the women to them at this time, making yourselves guilty of an oath. And so the children of Benjamin did so. They took enough wives for their number from those who danced, whom they caught. Then they went and returned to their inheritance, and they rebuilt the cities and dwelt in them. So the children of Israel departed from there at that time, every man to his tribe and family. And they went out from there, every man to his inheritance. In those days there was, those are italicized, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was, italicized again, what was right in his own eye. Done with that paragraph. You know what that says? God didn't do that. God didn't order that. The people did it themselves. And as we'll see in the coming chapters, it said there was no king in Israel. God was supposed to be their king. They weren't following his rules. Read the Bible. Read it. That things connect. The problem with this website is it's super disingenuous. They take the subject and they twist it. It gets twisted. Read it objectively. You know, down here it says the God of the Bible allows slavery, including selling your own daughter as a sex slave. Exodus 21, 1 through 11. You literally gave me chapter and verse. But up here, you gave me just the chapter number, giving me the ability to read the entire thing in the context you didn't create. You want to talk about Christians being liars? you're a liar just as much if you fail to give the complete context of a document. And how do we know the context of it? If I sat here and I read that here, God allows child abuse and bashing babies against rocks. God. Bashing babies against rocks. Please go. Open the Bible and tell me that that's what it says. Guess what? I have it right here. And this is what I'm going to end on. This is my point. Because I shouldn't have gone through all of that like that. I shouldn't have. Because each of these is a part which I got to go into in depth. Probably 14 videos a piece. Just so I can point it out. Right here. Let's do that. Bashing babies against rocks. Hosea 13:16. Hosea. Still in the Old Testament. Hosea. Chapter 13, verse 16. I can go right to there. Look at this. How about I do that? Let's go right there. Verse 16. Verse 16. Samaria is held guilty, for she has rebelled against her God. They shall fall by the sword. Their infants shall be dashed in pieces, and their women with child ripped open. Oh, man. I think you're right. I think I'm wrong. Because it literally says, their infants shall be dashed in pieces, and their women with child ripped open. Wait. That does sound pretty bad when you read it, but what if we read all of Hosea chapter 13? I'm not going to bore you like that anymore, because this video's gone on way too long. And I'm sure you didn't even get to this point. And if you did, thank you. Thank you very much. Chapter 13 is the relentless judgment on Israel. You know what it also says in this, Hosea chapter 13? Right at the beginning. When Ephraim spoke trembling, he exalted himself in Israel. But when he offended through Baal worship, he died. Now they sin more and more, and they have made for themselves molded images, idols of their silver, according to their skill. You know what it reads? It says, again, God is judging his creation. Do you know what Baal worship was? These people would heat the hands of an idol that had the head of a beast, bronze hands outstretched like this. They would have a flame underneath the hand, and they would place their children on this. These people worshipped a God that allowed them to place children on burning metal while people screamed and yelled in worship while this child was screaming while being burnt in the hands of Baal. And you want to tell me itself that what God wants is ritualistic human sacrifice even? No. You haven't even read the Bible through and through. If you read the Bible through and through, you'd understand what the document is. I'm going to give you a synopsis of the Bible right now. People screwed up. People screwed up. And people continue to screw up. Every day. Every single day you screw up. And you make the world worse. As do I. As do I. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect at all. But when you sit here and you lie to push your agenda, you gotta understand. The Bible is a warning. Look at all the horrible things I'm about to talk about in the coming weeks. The things that we're going to cover are horrible, disgusting, detestable. I mean, I already mentioned it. God allows slavery, selling your daughter as a sex slave, murder, rape, and pillage. I think we can finish this without having to read too much because I do want to get to another subject later. Just about every other page in the Old Testament has God killing somebody. In 2 Kings chapter 10, verses 18 through 27, God orders the murder of all the worshipers of a different god in their own church. That itself, well, we'll get to that whenever we do. In total, God kills 371,186 people directly and orders another 1,862,200 265 people murdered. Murdered. Because murder is intentional. The God of the Bible also allows slavery, including selling your own daughter as a sex slave. Exodus 21, 1 through 11. Child abuse, Judges 11, 29 through 40, and Isaiah 13 through 16. Chapter 13, verse 16. And bashing babies against rocks. Hosea chapter 13, verse 16. And Psalms 137, verse 9. This type of criminal behavior should shock any moral person. Are you serious? This should shock any moral person. Read it. Murder, rape, pillage, plunder, slavery, and child abuse cannot be justified by saying that some God says it's okay. If more people would actually sit down and read the Bible, there would be a lot more atheists like myself. No. If more atheists sat down and actually read the Bible, you wouldn't exist. You wouldn't exist. And when I mean you wouldn't exist, your atheism wouldn't exist. Okay, now, hold on. Let me go back. If you had half a brain and you read the Bible, but you don't. You don't, because you could obviously tell just by the way you write this that you can't be honest. Can't be genuine. Jesus also promoted the idea that men should castrate themselves to go to heaven. Let me read that again. Jesus also promoted the idea that all men should castrate themselves to go to heaven. This is from Matthew 19, verse 12. For there are eunuchs that were so born from their mother's womb, and there are eunuchs that were made by men, and there are eunuchs made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. I'm not even going to get into the fact that you're a straight up liar whenever you read that like that. That Jesus said, hey, men, you should all cut off your penis so you can go to sleep. And genitals, by the way. Because it's good for you. It's good. It's an allegory, you idiot. God. We'll get into all this later. It's going to take me a while to go through this website because there's so much in each little bit of this that it doesn't make sense. Anyways, to continue, I don't know why anyone would follow the teachings of someone who literally tells men to cut off their private parts. Right, because we don't. God of the Bible was also a big fan of ritual human sacrifice. No, I already said that. God's armies killed people who killed babies. But we'll get to that later. And just in case you were thinking that evil and immoral laws of the Old Testament are no longer in effect, perhaps you should read where Jesus makes it perfectly clear it is easier for heaven and earth to pass away for the smallest part of the letter of the law to become invalid. Luke 16:17. There are many more quotes on this topic at my don't ignore the Old Testament webpage, which we will get to. And guess what? That is the truest thing you've said on this thing. Yes. Yes, he did. And guess what? Christians fail to recognize that. God fails. People fail to recognize that. But, one thing you fail to do is you fail to read the whole Bible, right? There's 667 rules in the Old Testament in the beginning. And by the time we get to Jesus, it's 2. Because the Bible says that the law wasn't created for men to rule it, to serve it. No, the rules were meant to serve people. They were meant to make people better. They were meant to make societies better. But I go on. That was true. That was so true. Jesus did say that. Yeah, the Old Testament is still valid. Yeah, we'll get into that later. I know that most Christians believe that God is a good and loving God and wants people to do good things. I believe that most people want to do good things and behave morally. I also believe that many Christians haven't really read the Bible or just read certain passages in church. This is understandable, as the Bible is hard to read due to its archaic language and obscure references. So, many priests and preachers don't like to read certain passages in the Bible because they present a message of hate, not love. I almost thought you were there. You had it. You were almost so honest there. I completely agree. Even atheists are good, moral people. Yeah, but guess what? You didn't come up with that by yourself. You didn't come up with that all by yourself. You didn't. You were taught that. You were taught how to be moral. You were taught from parents who were taught to be moral. I'll end it. If you follow the links on this site, you will learn about all the nasty things that the Bible, things in the Bible that are usually not talked about by priests or preachers. Hey, guess what? Here's a Christian. Here's one who's talking about it. Here's one who wants to rationalize this out. I want to get down to the depths of it. I don't think you atheists need to be creating sound bites for the purpose of pushing a political agenda. You should strive for truth. That's all I want. The only reason I'm bashing on this is because I did it as an atheist, and I know you're being disingenuous. It's very simple. You can be honest and be wrong. Guess what? The world will survive. And so will you. And so will I if I'm wrong. Guess what? If God in heaven doesn't exist, guess who cares? Nobody. I mean, come on. You gotta be real. You can't lie. You can't be a liar. You've got to be able to tell the truth. Even if it doesn't fit your ideas. Just be honest. What does it hurt? What does it hurt to be an atheist and look at something objectively? When you look at God, you don't look at him objectively. You look at him as subjective. We're going to go through this. Because I've already printed out two subjects from them that I'd like to discuss. God is not pro-life. And God is impossible. Now, if you want to follow along with me, you can go to evilbible.com. You can look up all this information that I'm going through. I remember once upon a time they had a list of contradictions, but I guess they took them down because their contradictions probably didn't hold up. Because I remember whenever I was an atheist and I read them, they didn't make sense. It was like God's knowable and then God's unknowable. Like, that's a contradiction. It's like, no. Stupid. But at least you got honest about that. So let's see how many of these we can get you to take down, because you're just not being honest. You want the better for people? Be honest. Give it all to them as it is. But you know, you can only hope. Heck, I'll become a militant atheist again tomorrow. If we can go through my logical deductions to prove that I'm wrong. If I can, I will do that. I'll become a militant atheist. I will raise my hands. I haven't been like this all my life. So, I think the first one I'm going to start with is God is not pro-life. I'll start that in